All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of the Primetime CEO podcast. I'm the host, Nick. I got a friend here. He's gonna ask me a few questions that I think y'all will be interested in and hopefully tune back in one day. So let's get it going.
What's a mistake you made in your earlier years that taught you a valuable lesson?
That's a good question. I think in my earlier years and even recent years, just moving too fast, just not letting things take the time they need. Everyone wants to be successful, everyone wants to be on top today, tomorrow. It's a process, I mean, even this podcast, I have been planning this for months. We were talking about this last year. Things take time for, especially good things,
Right.
So I would say just rushing, trying to make things go faster than they're naturally gonna go. Yeah. What else you got?
Yeah. And how do you deal with failure?
Failure. I really don't like the word failure because it sounds like you're giving up and it sounds like you just are calling it quits, which sometimes you need to do. But failure, you should take it with a grain of salt. And, it varies on what you're doing, but you want failure defines your success. The amount of times you fail defines the kind of success you have, and hold on, give me a second.
Or I could ask this too.
Okay.
And this just stems from that question. What's the biggest failure you've had and what did you learn from it?
The biggest failure I've had a lot of failures. It's really hard to narrow it down to just one, but I would say it's really just how you deal with the failure. It's how you bounce back is what matters. The
Right.
failure really doesn't even matter. You just have to get back up, keep going, keep grinding, and don't let it discourage you from whatever you failed at, unless, like people in business, they'll fail at something and then try to keep going with it. You definitely have to know when to take it behind the barn and shoot it. You have to know when to call it quits. But, every failure is different. And like I said, it's more about what that failure does for you, really.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely. My next question is, what advice would you give your younger self and why?
That's kind of similar to that first question.
The first question,
Yeah.
well, would you do anything differently, or do you think past mistakes were necessary?
Past mistakes were definitely necessary because they open your perspective to new adventures and new accomplishments to achieve. Nothing really happens without trying it, trial and error.
Yeah.
So
And to on to the next question, what role does fear play in your life and how do you manage it? Is there something
fear,
you are afraid of?
um,
Or have you conquered a big fear?
I would say fears are also necessary because you build resilience when you tackle a fear. You grow and it just it you feel better on the inside once you achieve what you were so nervous and so scared about. Like honestly, even this podcast, it's not that I had fear about it, but these bright lights on us, the camera, it instills a little bit of fear, because you don't want to mess up, you don't want to say the wrong thing, but all those things just make you stronger in the end.
I agree. I got you. And we have 2 more questions left.
Okay.
The next question is, what's one piece of advice that really stuck with you, and who gave it to you? It could be a mentor, a friend, or a family member.
I've gotten a lot of good advice over the years, a lot of bad advice, but I would say one of the best pieces of advice I got from my dad that has always stuck with me is just to be aware of your surroundings, and that can apply to many different things and aspects of life, but just being aware of what's going on around you will put you in a good position to never get taken advantage of and never end up in a bad situation. If you just pay attention, you can prevent a lot of stuff from ever happening in the beginning. So
I got you.
I would say that just being aware. He used to say that to me a million times when I was younger, and another thing I would say from my mom would just be, and this is going to sound funny coming out, but I'll explain it, which is just to demonstrate self-control. And that means not only just sitting still and being in the moment, that means being able to, like what I was saying in the beginning, letting things take time and just demonstrating patience and being able to conquer, what you need to conquer.
And this, my last question is, how do you maintain balance between work, relationships, and personal time? What practices or habits have you developed that make time for everything that matters?
Well, you have to determine what matters in your life, but daily disciplines is a good way to get in a habit and a routine of just, I work every day. I might not be physically clocking in somewhere every day, but mentally my mind is always going on the next thing, on what I should be doing, and you have to be able to put that on pause at certain times.
Have some control.
Have some control, demonstrate self-control, and being able to just filter when it's time for work and when it's time to be with their family, when it's time to be with people you care about, So, yeah, what was the question again, though?
No, you're fine. It was, how do you maintain the balance between work, relationships, and personal time? And then stemming off that was, what practices or habits have you developed to make time for everything that matters?
So practices I've developed, I meditate every day, every morning, and there's this app, I don't want to shamelessly plug an app, but it's called Headway, and it's basically book summaries. So
non-sponsored, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right? Before they try to sue me for copyright, but it's basically gives you just, because I'm busy, and everyone has time to read. I even have time to read, but I've been doing really good with these summaries because it gives you a full realm of what the book was talking about, and it covers the main points, and it gives you a conclusion. It ties it all together to make it make sense in the end. So every day I wake up, I listen to two book summaries, not two books, 2 book summaries. They're 10, 15 minutes each. And then I meditate for at least 5 minutes, the most 15. And that I don't really feel good within myself when I don't do that. And I can tell the difference in the kind of day that I have when I don't do that.
Right.
You know, because those things are important to. It's all about repetition and consistency. You know, that's the key to everything. If you just it doesn't matter what you want to do. Give a better example. I was gonna say, if you want to rob a bank, you know,
Yeah.
if you just be consistent about it, you'll get it. But
No.
really, anything, you know, if you want to build a business, get in a relationship, anything, just
That's
stay
another podcast.
consistent. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Definitely, relationships is a whole separate thing. But yeah, just staying consistent, man. You know.
No. And that does sum up all my questions. I
Give me,
appreciate you
give
having me
me, give me two questions off the dome.
off,
Just
off the
things you want
top.
to know,
Off the top.
things you want me to put out into the universe to help people.
What would
You're good. Think about it.
what advice would you give other people on staying consistent?
Advice would just be to develop a routine and stick to it. That's the hardest part about consistency, is just sticking to doing what you're saying you're gonna do. You know, and that really falls into your integrity as a man or as a person, whoever's watching it. The only thing you have in life is your word, you know. So by sticking to your word and sticking to the routine and the schedule and the discipline that you put in place for yourself, will within 3 to 6 months, if you just stay consistent, you'll at least have a foundation and a framework you can build off of to build something really great.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I know you on a personal level, so I feel like I know what you're going to say, but this is for everyone that's watching. How do you feel about education? And nowadays, how do you feel about education?
That's an interesting topic.
This man's very educated, by the way.
I do. I have a bachelor's in psychology, a minor in sociology, and a master's in business. And while I don't directly use any of that, I would still say it's very important, because all school really does is train your mind. And it makes you become consistent at what you want to do, whatever it is, you know. It puts the framework and the foundation in place for you to be able to, you know, if like I got a degree in psychology, I'm not a psychologist. I know stuff about the mind that I learned, but it's not what I do every day. But that foundation and that framework that school built, that school instilled in me, that I didn't. When you enroll in school, you're paying for it. So whether you're paying for it, your parents, whoever, somebody's paying for it, or you got a loan from the school, you're gonna have to pay that back eventually. You know, so somebody's paying for it, and you don't want that to go to waste.
No.
You know, and it just, I think education is really, really important, especially in today's society, because everyone's so money hungry and they just want to make money. And there are ways to make money without going to school. I'm not saying school is the only way to make money, because definitely not. But you have over someone that may not have gone to school and someone that has. I would say 9 times out of 10, the person that has more experience and can handle more mental capacity, because school put them through adversities that they had to face and had to conquer in order to move through school and get that degree in the end, you know. So
Yes, sir.
yeah. That's the first episode, you guys. Those are pretty much all the questions we had today, but I want you guys to start DMing me just stuff you want to know, stuff you want me to talk about. I have a lot of knowledge. I hope this episode did a good job of displaying that. You can follow me on Instagram at Nick the Don. That's Nick. THE Don is DAWN. And the YouTube channel will be called Primetime CEO Podcast. So however you want to reach out to me, I'm open to mentorship, getting on one-on-one calls with people and just helping them out, trying to, I'm not God, but I like to think by doing this podcast, I'm out here spreading God's positivity, and He instilled all this in me based off of things I went through and the experience I have to give it to other people so they can hopefully take it without going through some of those things, but can use it to benefit their life. So CEO Primetime Podcast, Nick the Don on Instagram. I also just dropped a 4-song EP, but I don't know if you could tell from the changed tone of my voice. I don't know if music is really what I want to do just because of the negative stigma it puts on you when you're a so-called artist. I feel like being an artist just gives you a really bad reputation. People tend to not take you serious, and that's the opposite of the kind of man I try to be. So podcasts, I'm leaning more towards that. So here you guys go. Let me know what you think. See you in the next one.